Demolition, and there's that right hand. They're duking it out now by the right hand. Takayama.
Green trunks for the southpaw, the notorious Conor McGregor. Black trunks for the champion, Jose Aldo Jr. Conor relaxed, smiling. Oh!
Nate Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel? Hey, I'm not surprised.
Welcome to this week's episode of Chingazos Combat Crew. Thanks for joining me this week. I hope your day is kicking off to a fantastic start. I hope you guys are all ready to talk some Chingazos because today I got some good stuffs to talk to y'all about. Potentially fight of the night, actually fight of the year from this past weekend to discuss with you guys. The most violent tournament ever proposed to man. Class will be also in session for Monstros of Pride FC. Stay tuned to that and all kinds of other fight announcements and MMA drama for the week. All right, guys, let's talk Chingazos. But before we get into MMA news, I want to talk about someone that's making a difference out in the community out there. I'm talking about my boy, Carlos Rodriguez. If you're not familiar with him, he is the head coach over at Clubhouse_559 in Fresno. If you're looking for a place to take your kids to learn a little Muay Thai, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, get their confidence up, get their self-esteem up, make them feel good about themselves, make them feel good about their community, and surround them with other positive youth in the community, check them out here. But at the moment, they're asking for a favor because they got two of their boys who have been slowly grinding away out in their lab, and they're ready to spread their wings and begin to jump into competitions. So they're looking for sponsors. So if you have a couple of pennies out there and you would like to contribute to this, they need help with registration fees, some training equipment, traveling fees, and things like that. I got their Venmo on the screen. You can screenshot it. You can use the QR code. Or if you'd like to know a little more information, DM Carlos over at Clubhouse_559. And I'll be posting this on our socials again. But again, if you have a little bit of change, scan the QR code on the screen. And if you're listening, head over to our YouTube page at Chingazos Crew so you can get a piece of this and get in on the action and help these youngsters achieve their goals. And thank you, Carlos, for all you do for the community out there, bro. He's doing tons of stuff. If you're not familiar with all of the events that he puts on for his community, he's done community yard sale events. He's done free Friday night classes for kids, teenagers, youngsters, the tweens, you name it, free. Come check it out. And he's also big. They also have a big anti-fentanyl movement campaign that they've been working with for quite a while. So they're always doing positive things over there. Again, if you got a little bit of change in your pocket, sprinkle it on over and help these kids out. And if it's over $600 that you want to contribute, you could completely write that off to Uncle Sam and get that right back in your pocket at the end of the year. All right. All right. Let's move forward and talk MMA now. I know this is what you guys tuned in for. I found this story on the Reddit, and I think this is straight off of some voting that they did over on ESPN MMA, but they came up with the top 10 MMA fighters of the 21st century. Fedor Emelianenko, Randy Couture, Chucky Liddell, BJ Penn, Kamaru Usman, Demetrius Johnson, Anderson Silva, Jan Jones, GSP, and Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Who the fuck is that guy?
You know, that is seems like a pretty complete list to me. A GOAT lists. This would be like early 2000s to 2010s, maybe. You know what I mean? It looks like Kamaru's the newest addition to that from those champs. Everyone else is pretty old school, but most of these guys are all faded out except for Kamaru, who's hanging in there, John Jones, who's hanging in there for a little bit more, but we'll soon have replacements very soon. But I would agree 100% with this list. What do you guys think out there, crew? Is there anybody that they left off the list at the moment? I can't think of anybody, but I'm sure if you think about it for a while with your boys or whatnot, you can probably come up with one or two. And all of these are UFC fighters pretty much, except for Fedor. So there's that. You know, you might want to add Minotauro on there. I don't know. We'll get to Pride in a bit. All right, next story, guys. So rumors going around that Uncle Dana wants to take the UFC down to South Africa in 2025. So let's hear.
You know how bad I want this. I've been trying to get this thing done. The arena situation there is tough. It's tough to pull off. So that's been the challenge with Africa as a whole. So we're trying to figure it out. The place that we would have to do it at is outdoors. And you know how I feel about that. And so I've been trying to figure out the weather. One of the big things that I'm hearing out there is wind is a big problem. And we've done it a couple times, but anything that can affect the outcome of the fight makes me not even want to try. So, you know, and it's anything from wind, rain, bugs. I mean, too much humidity. A lot of things can interfere.
I've gone to a handful of shows. Me and the boys used to go to Tachi Palace Fights back in the day. They used to hold W Extreme Cage Fighting Championships out there, also at Lemoore, and those were wide open. I don't know how similar Lemoore Tachi Palace Res is to South Africa, but I would imagine it might be a little more chaotic down there because a lot more things to worry about out there as far as the wildlife and whatnot. So that 2025 South Africa plan might be put on hold for just a little bit longer. Sorry, Uncle Dana. All right, next story, man. This has been going on back and forth for quite a while, but Uncle Dana stirring up the junk from the bottom of the pond one more time. Here he is talking about what Francis Ngannou would have made had he not gone to boxing and just fought John Jones.
Why didn't you mention the fact that he would have made more money to fight John then? It would have sort of backed up your point. Why did it take you until now to bring it up?
Because why? I don't give a shit.
Because I'm a liar.
Because I know all the shit you people don't know. And I don't care what everybody says. It doesn't matter to me. But that's a fact. He was offered more money. Because I know the real numbers.
And here's Ngannou's response.
Recently claimed that you would have made more money if you stayed in the UFC. I just want to give you the chance to respond. Do you think, would Francis Ngannou have made more money if he stayed in the UFC?
Well, unless he was the one writing me the check, I don't see how he can know that. But me, as the inside one that was receiving those money after leaving the UFC, and from what the UFC was proposing, who was just a trap, he wasn't a solid contract as well. That's a lie.
So sounds like it's all smoke and mirrors, finger pointing, name calling. The only ones who really know what the bottom line was is those two guys and anyone else in the room. So if anyone wants to leak screenshots, show a potential contract, until we see that, it's just going to be more of this, man. But very interesting to say that no one's keeping their mouth closed and each person is giving their point of view. So take it for that. All right, man. Here's a little segment that I've been working on for this past week. You know, I'm an old school MMA junkie, and I wanted this is October, one of my favorite months of the year. That's right. It's the season of the spookies. So I came up with this little, not necessarily a top 5 list, because I got 5 fighters that I want you to become familiar with, and I'm calling this Monstros of Pride FC. So this isn't necessarily a list of 5 fighters who were the best at their time, who won every single time, even though some of them may have. But these are just people who, when you saw them show up on a card and you saw them scheduled to fight, you knew they were going to bring the pain. You knew it was going to be nothing but nuts, pure insanity, and a can of apps whooping was about to be unleashed. So let's jump right into this in no particular order, starting with one of my all-time favorite fighters from back in the day. And yeah, he might have been on the sauce, but I don't give a rip. They should have let everybody do this if this is going to be the results. Talking about Vanderlei, the Axe Murderer Silva. Everything about this dude reeks of monstrosity, from the soccer kicks to the knees to downed opponents to the stare downs at the beginning of the fights, man. You do not want no piece of this man, because he is just an utter nightmare. Look at what he did to Yuki Kondo here. Gets him to the ground, face stomps. I don't care about your face. Go to sleep. Monster. If you're not familiar with his resume from Pride FC, get yourselves a UFC Fight Pass and go watch every single encounter with this man. You'll love it. You will not regret it. All right. Next up on the list, one of my favorites, and I know one of the boys' favorites, who has a saying back in the day. It was, let me find it here. Right leg hospital, left leg cemetery. Yeah, this dude was known for putting people's lights out with high kicks. He did it to big guys. He did it to little guys. He did it to guys that had no business being in the cage, like Dos Caras Jr. or Igor Vovchanchyn, who had every right to be in there. And that's another man who's on this list, Alexander Emelianenko. So that's a monstro taking out a monstro right there, guys. And again, get yourselves a UFC Fight Pass. There's going to be lots of fights or fighters that I'm going to recommend you go out and watch. Next on the list, one of my all-time favorites, and I had the honor of, or almost the unfortunate luck of running into this man once. Me and my boy Eddie, Fight Professor, shout out my homie, were out at UFC 46 way back in the day. And who did we run into? This man on the screen, Kevin the Monster Randleman. After we introduced ourselves, shook hands, my boy, luckily I didn't. He just turned back around and pretended like we weren't there. But soon after that, this man ended up becoming disappointed at all. Next on the list, here's a guy who I talked about earlier because he did get murked by a monster on this list, but he is also a monstro himself, and that's Igor Vovchanchyn. Now, I know what you're saying. You look at this dude, and he's like, hey, who is this yellow Pillsbury doughboy? Yeah, but add murderer to that because that's what he is and who he is. I'm sure if you've ever seen an old school Pride highlight reel, you've seen this one down at the bottom of the screen. That's Igor putting out Francisco Bueno's lights out on the feet and on his way down, helping him out there. But yeah, that was a dude who you knew every time he stepped into the ring, someone was about to get an ass whooping majorly. And last man on the list, Alexander Emelianenko. He might not even be the baddest man in his family because his brother, as you guys know, the Emperor Fedor Emelianenko, is one of the all-time GOATs. He was on the GOAT list from ESPN earlier. Go check that out at the beginning of the show. But his brother, who may or may not have been a Russian mafia hitman, and he does have a giant tattoo of death holding a baby on his entire back. So that in itself makes him a monstro. But dude was a menace. Check out those clips on the screen, man. Just putting people's lights out, looking like, I mean, look at that look, that stare down. Alexander, Josh Thompson was ready to rock there. And Alex was like, just another day in the neighborhood. I'm about to put you to sleep for a long time, though, bro. So, yeah, that is my list. Monstros of Pride FC. Who would you have liked to see me add to that list? If there's anybody out there, hit me up, drop a comment down there. Let me know who you would add or who would you take off. All right, fight announcement time, guys. UFC 310 main event and co-main event has been announced. Main event going to be none other than Belal Muhammad defending his strap for the first time against the boogeyman, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Followed by, or actually not followed by, but right before that, the co-main event, Alexander Pantoja is going to be taking on newcomer to the UFC, Kai Asakura. So I believe Kai is a rising champ. He's got some experience with some UFC fighters. I don't know how much of a challenge he is. After watching last night's fight with Tatsuro and Brandon Royval, I would have loved to see Tatsuro against Pantoja because that would be a sick match on the ground. So maybe down the line, we'll see that. But December 7th, for my birthday. Yep, that's right. We get 2 bangers right here. So they've already announced them. They're already in camp. Let's go. All right, there it is from top to bottom. UFC 310 main card. Belal Muhammad taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. Alexander Pantoja taking on Kai Asakura. Cyril Gane taking on Alexander Volkov. And Luque taking on Nick Diaz. And then a fight that we've been waiting for a very long time, going to answer a lot of questions, and we'll probably see a number 1, number 2 contender out of this, or a fighter our boy Diego Lopes could take on. Movsar Evloev taking on Aljamain Sterling. So I'm hoping in the winner of that takes on our boy Diego. And then from that, we get a number 1 contender to see who takes on the winner of Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria. All right. Another fight that just got announced this past week, and this sounds cool. This isn't really a title wave fight. It's not going to make major waves, but it is going to make a statement. I mean, the winner of this fight is probably not going to move up in the rankings, but they are going to have a highlight reel. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about Neil Magny. I know for a while now, Neil has been, unfortunately, the nail for a while. He's been that little gatekeeper. He's the fighter that the UFC tests their up-and-coming fighters for. But I believe the way that Carlos Prates is on right now is way too big. He's turned into a tidal wave, man. He's a monster. I think that Neil Magny, who has derailed a handful of fighters before, but they've just not been at this level or this point in their career as Prates. Prates, let me see. I got some stats for you guys here, man. This dude has been on fire. He has 3 fights in the UFC. If you want to count his Dana White Contender Series fight, that's 4 finishes in a row. The man has not gone the distance since December 4th, 2019, guys. Yeah, it's been a while. I don't see this one going the distance as well. Rest in peace, Neil Magny. We'll see you on the other side, bro. All right. Here is what I was talking about at the beginning of the show. The most violent tournament ever proposed to man on the face of the earth, possibly. I think this was Dustin Poirier who dropped this gem on, I don't know what podcast, but he's like, yo, bros, this is the tournament we need. We need a one-night, 4-man tournament between myself, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, Max Holloway.
What the fuck?
Holy smokes. Talk about something you didn't even know you needed, but now that's all you're going to think about. Now, no commission in their right mind would sanction a 4-man, 1-night tournament, but they would sanction multiple events. You know what I mean? If we're going to do this, let's spread this out over 6 to 9 months, have all of these guys fight the first round one night, and then way later down that year, we have the finals. That would be an amazing tournament. Who would you take out and who would you put in this case? Is there anybody you might want to add? I mean, I'm sure there's a fighter or two if we really thought about it. Or maybe another 4-man BMF tournament in a separate weight class. That's another gem right there. Drop your 4-man tournament in the comments, y'all. All right. Fight announcement that I am so hyped for. Our boy, favorite fighter of the show. Just kidding.
Not the day.
Yeah, or any day. Jamahal Hill says he's been offered a fight and the contract is on the way. He's not saying who it is. Let's take a look at the rankings. Top 5 in the light heavyweight division. After the champ, Alex Poatan Pereira, we have Yuri Prochaska, Magomed Ankalaev, Jamal Hill, Jan Blachowicz, and Alexander Rakic. Now, Alex just fought, and he's on a winning streak. Jamal needs to get some wins under his belt, so he's for sure not going to be fighting Alex. Magomed's got a fight coming up against Alexander Rakic in a couple of weeks, so that's not going to happen. And that only leaves Jan and Yuri. Now, I believe Jan still might be nursing an injury or coming back, so I don't know if he's ready to fight. But I do know that Yuri is ready, and I do know that Yuri posted that he signed a contract. So could these two juggernauts be on a collision course? I know, bro. I know. That is going to be a banger of a fight. My dog is hyped for this. Me and Charlie definitely going to be in the house for this one. Stay tuned. I hope Jamal can stay healthy enough to make it to the cage for this one because we need to see you fight, bro. So I don't know if they would be willing to add this to UFC 310. It's kind of short notice for that. So they'll probably be pushing for something around January, February 2025. So stay tuned and we'll have more info as soon as it is made available, y'all. All right. I don't know if you got to watch any UFC last night, but if you have a UFC or I'm sorry, if you have an ESPN Plus plan, go back and watch this main event, because this banger of a main event could potentially be, I'm at the moment, I'm going to have to go back and watch more fights, but this could possibly be one of the fights of the year. Main event, Brandon Royval taking on UFC newcomer Tatsuro Taira. Now, before coming into this fight, I thought Raw Dog was just going to steamroll over Taira. After I saw how Taira had kind of a hard time with Alex Perez's stand-up, I was like, oh, Raw Dog's going to piece him up. And I think his ground game is just good enough to push off Taira and keep him safe and should win an easy roll. Boy, was I wrong. Tatsuro came to play, and I have not seen a ground game like this since the Damian Maia days. Because if this dude gets a hold of you, he gets to your back, it's game over. You're not going to get out. I just wish that the dude would work on cooking you more, because that takedown, that back control, your ground game, it's going to be there rounds 3, rounds 4, round 5. So if you can get your opponents down rounds 1 and 2 and just start raining that ground and pound like you did to Royval in round 2, I promise you that by the end of round 3, round 4, round 5, any submission you want, it's going to be available. Another thing he's going to have to work on, though, is his stand-up, because that's where Royval proved that he was light years ahead, piecing him up. Now, one of the judges did give it for Tatsuro. I got the judges' scorecards on the screen. Sal Diamato had it 47-48 Tatsuro. Chris Lee had it 48-47 for Royval, and Ron McCarthy had it 48-47 for Royval as well. I thought Tatsuro only won rounds 2 and 4. That was when he did get back control. It might have been 2 and 3. No, I think it was 2 and 4, because that's what everybody else gave him. So it was round 2 and 4, and round 2, Tatsuro got the back control early, got the body lock, and was dropping bombs, dropping elbows, dropping left hands, dropping right hands, getting Royval in the power half, being a complete menace, making Raw Dog use all kinds of energy. But at the end of the round, Raw Dog survived. He was still there. Round 3, he came back with a little bit of urgency, was piecing him up on the feet. I do think that Tatsuro was able to press him up against the cage, got another takedown at the end, but it wasn't enough. I thought Raw Dog won that round. Come round 4, I thought Raw Dog was in control. I was like, bro, all you got to do is avoid the takedown. Wrong. Couldn't do that. That's how good this kid is. At the end of the fight, Raw Dog welcomed him. He's like, anytime you want to be, you're going to be training. You want to train in Colorado? You let me know. I'll give you a ride. But I am definitely sure that this is not the last time we're going to hear the name Tatsuro Taira. So we'll see what happens with Kai Asakura and Alexander Pantoja. Maybe Tai gets the loser of that. I would love to see that, man. All right. Next week, we got another banger event coming up, UFC Fight Night. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on one of Fonzo's favorite fighters, Michel Pereira. Just a little quick preview here. Prelim bangers I think you should go and watch. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Robles displaying, taking on Austin Lane. Watch the first round. If it goes past that, go get yourself a pizza, because it's going to be a long while. Brad Katona taking on Gene Matsumoto. That should be a fun banger. And Matthias Nicolau taking on Asu Almabayev. UFC is trying to make another contender out of Asu, and I think they are. Matthias is a tough contender. He ain't no slouch, so that should be a fun matchup to watch there. And then on the main card, co-main and main event is going to be fun. Rob Font taking on Kyler Phillips. I think this might be a little too much for Kyler, but hey, you got to find out sometime, boy. Welcome to the big leagues. Yep. And then
I'm ready to take
Anthony
on 10 matches.
Fluffy Hernandez taking on Michel Pereira. That is going to be exciting. 2 different styles colliding there, with Anthony Hernandez playing that Bilal Muhammad style game where he's just going to slowly wear you down, grind you out, try to get you down, control you, try to hunt for a sub, where Michel Pereira is just pure supernova energy, tidal wave coming at you with explosive flips, kicks, elbows, jumping shit, running off the cage. Save all your energy for the cage, Michelle. Don't do anything crazy before, man. So, all right, Combat Crew, one more story here. You know You know it. You know it. 12 more sleeps and a wake up for UFC 30 is a let's go. We cannot wait for this. What an exciting card. Check it out. Main card. Main event, Ilia Topuria, Max Holloway. Yes, please. Robert Whittaker, Khamzat Chimaev. That's going to be a 5-round banger. I think Khamzat in trouble there. What do you guys think? And then Lerone Murphy taking on Dan Ige. That is going to be a sneaky good fight. That could be fight of the night right there. Magomed Ankalaev taking on Alexander Rakic. Yeah, that's going to be a good one. And then Shera Magomedov taking on Arman Petrosian. That should be fun. All right, crew. That is a wrap. We got 2 more episodes this month. We got lots of spookies coming up. So I'll have another top 5 monsters of maybe UFC, maybe of MMA, maybe monster fights. You got to watch to believe. That's all I got for you guys. That's a wrap. Thank you for hanging out with me. Hope you had as much fun as I did making this episode. Please don't forget to give us a follow on all the social medias. That's TikTok, Instagram, Threads, X, YouTube. All under the same name at Chingasos Crew. Until next week, Chingasos Crew out. Peace.
Demolition, and there's that right hand. They're cooking it out. Mount Barber right hand. Takayama.
Green trunks for the southpaw, the notorious Conor McGregor. Black trunks for the champion, Jose Aldo Jr. Conor relaxed, smiling. Oh!
Nate Diaz, he just shook up the world. How's that feel? Hey, I'm not surprised.